The Oscars is a cinephile's favourite night. This year was the first year I watched it in full, and I was a little disappointed that Zootopia 2 didn't win.
Jokes are a classic defense mechanism for someone with a traumatic childhood.
Would you like a traumatic adulthood?
I would not.
But it got me thinking about my favourite animated film of all time, Coraline.
My name!
And how that didn't win an Oscar back in 2010 either. Coraline was up against Fantastic Mr. Fox, The Princess and the Frog, The Secret of Kells, and what ultimately won, Up.
And the winner is... Up.
For the category Best Animated Feature Film. And I suppose I'm being a little biased here, but I think Coraline should have won by a mile for so many reasons. So let's get into it. Coraline is a stop motion. That means every frame in the film is a picture, and filmmakers must set every single frame of the film by hand before photographing it with not one but 2 cameras. Not only that, but everything is made by hand as well. Each facial expression of the characters, the clothes they wear, their hair, the house. Stop motion can be so time consuming. 1 second is 24 frames. 1 minute is 1,440 frames. Handmade crafts are so beautiful and a nice touch to films because while all films and animations are obviously a lot of work and are all time consuming in their own way, I think it is more clear to see the amount of work and love that has been put into a stop motion film.
To know that everything you see moving, everything you see has been put together by somebody, crafted by somebody.
What this also means is, since everything within the shot is put there by hand, then a lot more thought goes into each shot, each frame, each scene. Everything is thought through and done for a reason.
Everything about her was a conscious choice, especially in her case, she's incredibly asymmetrical. And it could be so easy to kind of be like, oh, I'm just going to shore that up, you know, kind of like lift that side or that, and forget that it was like, no, that was a choice.
Design choices.
That was a design choice.
This is something called mise-en-scène. Mise-en-scène is a French term and literally translates to staging. In terms of filmmaking or theatre, this means everything that is purposefully placed on stage or within a frame of a film. This can refer to lighting, colouring, props, costume, set design, meaning, yes, those framed pictures are there for a reason. I love looking at mise-en-scène alongside foreshadowing and symbolism in films, especially films that have so much background to the characters and lore to where they came from. So, it's no surprise why Coraline is one of my favourite films, as it is packed to the brim with all these elements. Let's delve further into the mise-en-scène for Coraline, and the first thing I want to analyse is the colour. For the first portion of the film, when Coraline is in her own world, everything is very dull, dark, desaturated, and a little depressing. All the colour has essentially been stripped away, and if it were any further down on the grayscale, there would be no colour at all. The kitchen is grey, her dad's office is grey, the living room is grey, even the pink house is faded, and the weather is miserable too. This is to symbolise how she feels her life is. Boring, and a more specific word for the weather symbolising feelings is pathetic fallacy. This is when the weather reflects characters' emotions or plot lines. For example, sunshine usually occurs when the story is looking bright, and it is usually stormy if something has or is about to go wrong.
What rain?
So, all this grey reflects how Coraline feels as a tween girl who has just moved away from home, away from her friends, and away from what she has probably grown up with, potentially being her first big move in her life as well. Of course she's going to be a little upset. However, when we compare all this with the other world, and even the tunnel going through to the other world, it could not be more different. The kitchen is unrecognisable. The food looks hearty, and the garden is brought to life with vibrant flowers. This is to entice Coraline and the viewer into this fantastical, utopian, colourful version of her life.
Something smells good.
But we very soon find out that it is just too good to be true. Now, I don't think I can talk about colour in Coraline and not mention her hair. Coraline's signature look is her bright blue hair and her bright yellow raincoat, which is a huge contrast to everything around her in her own home. Originally, she was designed to have brown hair, and you can actually see a photo of young brunette Coraline in her parents' bedroom. But the designers ultimately decided blue was for her.
The artist put in blue highlights, and then something about that was like, oh, maybe she has blue hair.
As it symbolised her desire to be seen, to stand out, and to be different, as well as to convey that she is still an innocent child who is drawn to colour. This pairs nicely with her being drawn to the colour in the other world. I also want to compare the set design of each version of the Pink Palace. The other world is meant to be a direct replica of Coraline's real home. However, the other mother is able to manipulate the space to make it as idyllic as possible to lure her in and bribe her to stay. I want to look at the changes the other mother made to the home and analyse what that is doing for the film. Specifically, Dad and his office. Charlie Jones, the real Dad, has piles upon piles of cardboard boxes in his study, as he has just moved in and he's working away on his gardening book at his computer on his desk. But compare this to the other father, there are identically placed bookshelves and a piano in place of the monitor. This is to show Coraline that this is the fun house, the happy house, the better house. Everything that Coraline wants from her own parents. However, we later find out that the other father has been roped into these doings and is being controlled by the other mother.
Her strength is our strength.
So when we look even deeper into him and his office, you notice things that foreshadow this. The walls are striped wallpaper, which is similar to that of a prison cell. Pair this with his orange dressing gown, the same shade as the infamous orange jumpsuit of prison inmates. Both these factors hinting at his imprisonment in his own home. Lastly, I want to talk about the film's ambiguous ending. I'm quite picky about the endings of films. It can't be too ambiguous, as I don't like an ending that makes me think, well, what was the point of watching that? But it also can't be too anticlimactic and predictable. I think Coraline is a perfect example of a perfect ending. Everything works out for everyone, Coraline gets her parents back, and they pay more attention to her. The beldam dies, and they have a lovely party in their new garden. Wybie and Coraline get along. Even Wybie gets to see his grandma. But was it really like that? Some people say that Coraline never gets out of the other world. Why would her parents suddenly change their attitude towards her if they had supposedly forgotten everything?
You were right, Coraline. Oh no, you broke my favorite snow globe.
The cat was only seen shifting his body in space when in the other world.
I come and go as I please.
So why can we see him disappearing behind the sign for the house at the end, especially as he breaks the fourth wall and looks directly at us while he does it? We also only see them within the vicinity of the house, when earlier it's made clear that the other mother can't replicate too large a space.
She only made what she knew would impress you.
On top of that, the other mother kept fighting when she only had her hand left, and I don't know about you, but it freaked me out that they dropped the key in the well with her smashed up hand. Having said all that, I don't think I believe in this ending. However, a film that forces me to think about the reality of the ending and makes me think about different truths deserves to be recognised as a great film. Combine this with all the other factors discussed in this video essay, such as the hard work put into each second of this film, the handmade crafts we see on every inch of the screen, and the attention to detail in the characters, their costume, their hair, their house, their face is, in my opinion, impeccable, and deserving enough of an Oscar. Even still, it definitely earns its place in my top 4 on Letterboxd, and I hope I have convinced you to consider putting it in your top 4 as well.